I thought something was meaningful because of what it could lead to, but I didn't realize how much I was letting potential override reality. In this podcast, I expose my life, the distortions I spent years living in and mistaking for who I was. I invite you to confront what you've normalized and choose differently, so you can build a reality you fall in love with. Today in Undistorted Self, meaning is when we tie significance to something. It's not only the action that we're doing, it's what the outcome of that action is giving to us. And that significance that we attach to that potential outcome is different for you, for me, for everybody is different. Because it relies, so the way that I've broken it down lately is, and it might help you understand, because meaning is not just, oh, this is meaningful. No, there's a process that goes in it. It requires interpretation. And our interpretation is how we see something, how we perceive something to be. And that perception can carry distortion, because that perception is created from our past experience, from pain, from longing, from the narrative we have in our minds, the environment we're in or we grew up in, what feels available. So it has all these conditions that can and that will influence our interpretation. And basically, the interpretation that we give to something, especially when we assign it the label meaningful, it's because it's a combination of the anticipated outcome, so what we think will be the outcome. And I say what we think, or anticipated, or potential, because it's not certain that is actually what it's going to be, but it's what we think would be, and the value we are attaching to that anticipated outcome. That value plus the anticipated outcome creates the interpretation that we assign significance to. And even though that the outcome that we're aiming forward might be clean, might be a nice purpose-driven outcome, the path to it might carry distortion. So, and we go through this mental process of how we assign meaningful, and this will keep changing as we keep learning, because our interpretive lens changes with us as well, and we can adjust it and improve it and everything. But I'm trying to say that when we put the label of meaningful, or we see other people say certain actions are meaningful, we need to question it. We cannot just take it or do it. It requires discernment. It requires us to be very in contact with the reality of what is. Otherwise, a lot of things can go wrong. There's a lot of distortion in the chain of what we assign meaning to. Sometimes we overvalue the potential outcome, and that we undervalue the present conditions, or we don't really see fully the present conditions because we're so attached to the outcome, to the possible outcome, that we ignore it. We ignore what reality is telling us, and we keep moving as if that outcome is still reachable. And not only might the outcome that you're trying to pursue might not ever come, but it's likely that you'll overstay in things, or keep waiting, or abandon yourself in the process, betray yourself, erase yourself, your needs. There's a lot that can happen, because when you are overvaluing that outcome, you can usually do it not only above the reality, but also above yourself. And that's when it becomes harmful. It is crucial to put more attention on the actual machinery and how it's built to see if that potential outcome, like what's the likelihood of that potential outcome. Potential does not mean that it will happen. So that's something important, because in my life, I said it before, I've always been very driven by mission, purpose, basically literally by meaning. I wanted to do something bigger, something more, something that adds value, that helped. And a lot of the times, because of that purpose, I disconnected from reality. I didn't really see the conditions of where I was standing and the actual how things were moving. I didn't see them that clearly. I was so tied to the outcome that I let a lot of information slide from me. So for example, I've been using the whole example of the startup throughout the season. In that, I was so tied to the mission. I wanted so much to help people, to do something for people, and not in like individually. I wanted to do something more that will help a broader audience. And we were creating a technology product, habit building. We've had coaches. It was all growth, personal growth related. And because I was so tied to that mission, I didn't question enough how the structure was built, how the actual dynamics were working in the startup. Not only was I underpaid, very undercompensated, and I was overworked, which those things were bad because they were basically asking me to, betray myself to keep it up. But I was so tired because I knew that we could get there. And it's funny because I wanted that mission so badly that when I had, the opportunity came to me, I wasn't really looking for that purpose at the beginning. It came to me. And when I started to try to make my life more purposeful or meaningful, I was already working in the startup, helping out, and it became the easy path to make that happen. So having it already present made me also overvalue that opportunity, tie it to that purpose that I wanted to reach, and then overcompensate so we can reach that mission. And in doing so, I didn't see clearly the reality. And that was my biggest mistake. I didn't see how the structure was so toxic, the dynamics were toxic, how it was not really growing with me, how a lot of the things were there. Eventually, I started to see it, and that's why I left. But I gave the meaning too high value that I didn't question if it could actually sustain it. It could actually meet it fully. If the way that it was moving and growing could actually reach that outcome, which then the answer was no, not really. It was costing me too much, so I needed to get out. So I'm saying because there's many things that need to be questioned when you're attaching meaning to something. Not only exactly what you're attaching it to, but also what's the path to get there? What is the reality you're standing on? And can that thing actually sustain what it requires to reach that outcome? All of these are hard questions that require a lot of discernment, and you need to be very present to allow yourself to fully see. A lot of the times, longing, pain, scarcity can make you attach higher meaning to actions or to things or to relationships or jobs because, there's longing, there's pain, it's been scarce in your life and you might need it. And when something feels rare, you might allow that to excuse overlooking other things. Basically, the meaning you attach to something starts becoming higher than the actual discernment to see if that meaning can be upheld. In my life, one example is relationships. A lot of the times I would feel connection, strong connection with certain individuals, and this was not common for me, and I would be met in the specific areas, and it was a very rare feeling for me. So I would overvalue that relationship, that potential of what it could become, because my field was lacking it so much that I stayed longer. I allowed a lot of harm. And it's interesting because in my life, because obviously how I grew up, I had learned to override my needs, my own pain. It was not, I didn't even see it as important. If I was hurting or I was in pain, it didn't qualify as important enough to fully change. So when I added meaning and purpose on top to a thing that was causing me harm, made me even ignore my pain, my harm, and my needs even more than I would normally, and excuse it because it was meaningful, because it was rare, because it was connection. So I would use all that feeling to literally override my hurt. And I share this experience because that might also happen to you. You might have attached the label meaningful to things that are harming you a lot and excusing it and using it to excuse the harm because it's so rare. And you shouldn't do that. It's not only going to cause you a lot more pain because you're going to stay in situations longer than you should have. So yeah, it's literally causing you more pain, but also there's better out there. There is better out there for you. Things that don't actually ask you to abandon yourself, hurt yourself, harm yourself for the sake of it, for the sake to keep it. Anything that asks you to abandon yourself is not something that is for you. No. I attached to so many relationships so much more meaning because of how rare they were that I will cause myself so much pain. And I didn't even see the reality. I knew there was potential, and yeah, that potential could become true. But there's a lot of actions, and there's an entire path that is required in order to reach that potential. And I didn't see reality so closely to actually ask, is this growing with me? Is this actually moving forward towards that potential, or is it not? And a lot of the times, no. Sometimes it kind of was growing because there's relationships or work or opportunities that might actually grow with you. So if you're questioning and saying, okay, are we heading on the right direction? Is the reality good? Then yeah, it might be a yes. In my case, there was too many situations in relationships that it was a no. That it was not heading to that potential outcome. And even though maybe the characteristics existed for it to reach that, the path that we're following, the current conditions of today and then of yesterday, we're not leading under that direction. And even if for one moment, it maybe met me, it didn't mean that that person had the capacity to hold that state. Meaning, it doesn't mean that it was going to always meet me. It met me for a bit, and then it couldn't hold it, and then it was trying to take me down with it in some of the relationships. And that caused a lot of also hurt. So I had to see, okay, what is happening? How are things growing with me? Are we actually moving towards that outcome or not? And how much is it costing me? And I keep saying this in every episode. This is all different ways of things in life that are costing you a lot. And everything that costs you yourself is not for you. That's the biggest north that you can use. So I'm going to end this episode by asking, what are you calling meaningful because of what you hope could become? And what is reality actually telling you?